to ensure accountability for Israel's persistent violations of international human rights law. The Maldives reiterates its call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and urges Israel to allow unrestricted, sustained access for humanitarian aid to reach the suffering population of Gaza. The government and people of Maldives stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people and assure our unwavering support for their legitimate and just struggle towards an independent and sovereign state of Palestine based on the pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem at its capital. I thank you.
Merci. Je donne la parole au distingué représentant de Timor-Leste.
Thank you, Mr. President. Timor-Leste thanks the Independent International Commission of Inquiry for its important report. We express deep concern over the Commission's findings regarding attacks on educational institutions and religious and cultural sites. Such acts not only constitute violations of international law, but also strike at the core of human dignity and the right of all peoples to safety, identity, and access to learning. We are particularly alarmed by the Commission's findings that since October 2023, more than 70% of the school buildings in Gaza were damaged, and that education for children has been made impossible. Timor-Leste reaffirms its firm position in support of the rights of the Palestinian people and of all civilians in the region. We condemn all violations of international law and call for full accountability, the protections of civilian infrastructure, and underpin humanitarian access. Timor-Leste stands in solidarity with all peoples striving to live in peace, dignity, and security. Finally, Timor-Leste firmly supports a two-state solution as the only viable path to a just and lasting peace between Israel and Palestine, and we join the international community in calling for an immediate end to the conflict. Thank you, Mr. President.
Merci. Je ne crois pas que la délégation de la République populaire démocratique de Corée est en salle. Je donne donc la parole à la distinguée représentante du Portugal.
We thank the Commission for its report. Educational facilities should be safe havens. However, many have been deprived of their right to education due to the destruction of their schools and universities, particularly in Gaza. Where these remain operational, students live in fear of being attacked. The targeting of cultural and religious sites, the continued expansion of settlements and forced displacement have further undermined the Palestinian people's right to enjoy their own culture, their freedom of religion or belief, and their right to self-determination. Portugal condemns all acts of violence, the targeting of civilians, civilian objects in US facilities, as well as the use of civilian facilities for military purposes. It is paramount that all parties abide by international humanitarian and human rights law. We recall the ICG's advisory opinion and the obligation of Israel to protect the occupied population. All parties must cooperate with relevant HRC mechanisms, and we regret that that was not the case throughout the Commission's work. Portugal remains committed to a comprehensive, just and lasting peace based on the two-state solution, and we urge all parties to refrain from unilateral actions that may undermine peace efforts. We also express our concern with the recent escalation in the region and appeal for renewed commitment to stabilization. Members of the Commission, what steps can states take to mitigate the absence of in-person learning, particularly in Gaza?
Merci.
Thank you.
Je donne la parole au distingué représentant du Bangladesh.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank the Commission of Inquiry for its report. Bangladesh strongly condemns the unspeakable atrocities on and indiscriminate killing of innocent Palestinian civilians, including women, children, older persons, and persons with disabilities since October 2023. We demand the permanent end of Israeli brutalities in Palestine. The flagrant violation of international law by Israel for decades needs to be addressed by the international community by holding Israel accountable and putting an end to the culture of impunity. Bangladesh reiterates its strong support for a lasting and permanent ceasefire, and we call upon the international community to refrain Israel from committing ceasefire violations. We call for rapid, safe, and unhindered provision of life-saving assistance to Gaza. We also call for undertaking rebuilding initiatives to ensure the rapid return of the displaced Palestinians to their homes. We call for full implementation of the provisional measures ordered by the ICJ relating to the proceedings brought under the Geneva Convention. Finally, Bangladesh reiterates its strong support for an end to Israel's occupation of Palestine and for a lasting and permanent solution that sees the establishment of a sovereign and independent Palestinian state along pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. Thank you, Mr. President.
Merci. Je donne la parole au distingué représentant de la République démocratique populaire Lao.
Mr. President, my delegation thanks the Commission of Inquiry for the report. The Lao PDR is deeply concerned over the critical situation of human rights and humanitarian crisis in the occupied Palestinian territory, especially in Gaza. We extend our heartfelt sympathy for the tragic loss of life and destruction to property resulting from the continuing violence. We strongly urge the implementation of an immediate and lasting ceasefire to facilitate the rapid, safe, and unobstructed delivery of humanitarian aid. The Lao PDR unwavering support the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination. In this context, we reiterate our consistent call for the revival of diplomatic negotiation aiming at achieving a just and peaceful solution with the goal of establishing two sovereign states coexisting peacefully in accordance with relevant UN resolution and international law. The Lao PDR are profoundly concerned over the increasingly volatile security situation in the Middle East, reaffirm our collective commitment to peace, justice, and human rights. I thank you, Mr. President.
Merci. Je donne la parole au distingué représentant de la République bolivarienne de Venezuela.
Gracias, presidente. Agradecemos la presentación del informe, el cual refleja el deterioro y la sistemática violación de los derechos humanos perpetrada por Israel, potencia ocupante contra el pueblo palestino desde 2023. En las conclusiones de su informe se señala que los ataques israelíes en Gaza han destruido el sistema educativo, teniendo repercusiones perjudiciales a largo plazo para los niños y jóvenes de Gaza, así como para la identidad del pueblo palestino como grupo, hecho que viola flagrantemente el derecho a la libre determinación. La Comisión ha constatado que las fuerzas de seguridad israelíes han cometido crímenes de guerra, dirigiendo ataques intencionados contra la población civil, incluso cometiendo el crimen de lesa humanidad de exterminio, al matar a civiles refugiados en escuelas. Todo ello mediante ataques aéreos, bombardeos, incendios y demoliciones de las fuerzas de la potencia ocupante, actos que fueron y son realizados de manera sistemática. Llamamos la atención a la comunidad internacional sobre el daño irreparable a los ojos de los pueblos del mundo, ya que este daño se le está haciendo al sistema multilateral de los derechos humanos, pues se permite la indefensión total del pueblo palestino, a tiempo que se justifica la impunidad con la cual actúa Israel en complicidad con los Estados Unidos y la Unión Europea. Venezuela reitera su condena y rechazo a la violación permanente de la ocupación, hoy convertida en exterminio por parte de Israel contra Gaza. Defendemos el camino de la paz como única opción para acordar la convivencia de la humanidad y respetar el sagrado derecho de la vida del pueblo de Israel y de todos los pueblos, del pueblo palestino y de todos los pueblos del mundo. Muchas gracias.
Merci. Je donne la parole au distingué représentant de la République islamique de l'Iran.
Thank you, Mr. President. On 13 June 2025, the Israeli regime launched a full-scale act of aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran, killing at least 224 civilians, including women and children, and destroying protected civilians' infrastructures. This is not a military escalation or conflict. It is a grave act of aggression and a war crime in clear violation of subparagraph 4 of the Article 2 of the UN Charter and Article 3 and 5 of the UNGA Resolution 3314. This crime is a direct result of years of systematic international impunity afforded to the Israeli regime. These atrocities would not have been possible without the continued military and political support provided by the Western governments. In accordance with Article 51 of the UN Charter, the Iranian armed forces have exercised Iran's inherent right to self-defense and responded decisively and forcefully. After killing over 55,000 people and attacking 3 sovereign nations, the Israeli regime's war machine showed no sign of restraint. No aggressor in our history has escaped justice. We will act with strength and uncompromising force to suppress threats at their inception. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I invite delegations again to speak to the item on our agenda in the current debate, and I give the floor to the distinguished representative of South Africa.
Mr. President, South Africa thanks the Commission for the report. Israel's targeting of the educational, cultural and religious life of the Palestinian people is not simply an aberration, nor an isolated incident. Rather, the very foundations of Palestinian society are being reduced to rubble in an intentional, concerted campaign which is aimed at erasing Palestinian life and survival as a group, eroding the Palestinian people's historical ties to the land and weakening their collective identity. Combined with the continued expansion of settlements, these genocidal actions violate the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, diminishing the prospects for a viable, independent Palestinian state, constituting what the UN Special Committee on Israeli Practices in the OPT recently warned, a second Nakba. However, notwithstanding Israel's clear and stated intentions, the Palestinian people exist, and their right to self-determination is inalienable and therefore can never be expunged nor subject to a veto. Accordingly, unless and until we as an international community live up to our legal and indeed moral obligations to bring a decisive end to Israel's unlawful occupation, together with its ongoing impunity, the unimaginable suffering of the Palestinian people will continue. We must act now and hold Israel accountable once and for all. Tomorrow will be too late, with irrevocable consequences for our shared humanity. I thank you.
Merci. Nous passons à la liste des institutions nationales des droits de l'homme et des organisations non gouvernementales. Je donne la parole à Institute for NGO Research.
Mr. President, I record this statement from Israel after another night of Iranian ballistic missile attacks on our cities. Since Friday, Iran has launched nearly 500 lethal missiles on Israeli civilians, wreaking destruction and destroying lives. The COI is now presenting its 8th report to the Council, but in the hundreds of pages it has produced, this Commission has yet to say anything about Iran and its role in driving the Palestinian conflict with Israel. This omission is glaring. The COI claims it investigates all underlying root causes of instability and protraction of conflict. Yet it is silent as to how Iran is a root cause, with its genocidal agenda to destroy Israel and the terror armies it deploys to drive the conflict. Iran trains and arms Hamas and Hezbollah. It helped plan the October 7 massacre. Iran spreads the conflict across the globe, inciting anti-Semitism and violence, riots in the streets, and chaos on campuses. Iran is racing for a nuclear weapon to execute its malevolent aims. A reader of any COI report would know none of these facts, because this COI is not interested in presenting a complete picture of the conflict or its root causes. This COI plays into this campaign, manufacturing one-sided narratives that obscure the truth and serve to demonize Israel. Recent events provide a glimmer of hope that Iran's threats to eliminate Israel are finally over. Let's hope this is the end of the information war as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, before moving to the next speaker, I would like to request again all participants to deal with human rights issues before this Council with the necessary dignity and respect. While speakers may refer to specific situations by way of example, for illustration, I call upon all participants to ask questions or make comments in relation to the scope of the current dialogue. I give the floor to the Palestinian Initiative for the Promotion of Global Dialogue and Democracy, also by video.
We thank the Commission for its crucial work and welcome its latest report, which once again confirms Israel's ongoing violations of international law, particularly the deliberate and systematic destruction of Palestinian educational and cultural institutions across the occupied Palestinian territory. The report provides overwhelming evidence that Israel has targeted and destroyed over 70% of schools in Gaza since October 2023, with many used as shelters at the time of attack, resulting in mass civilian casualties, including children. The Commission found that Israeli forces carried out these attacks with knowledge of civilian presence, constituting war crimes and crimes against humanity, including willful killing and extermination. Equally alarming are the findings regarding the deliberate targeting of religious and cultural sites, which is an assault on Palestinian history, culture, and spiritual life. This is a calculated effort to dismantle the Palestinian people's present and annihilate their future. It's time for the international community to move beyond statements of concern. What is unfolding is a catastrophe by design. We call on member states to uphold their legal obligations, including those under the Genocide Convention and those laid out in the ICJ advisory opinion, and take urgent, concrete measures to halt the ongoing war crimes, crimes against humanity, and policies of apartheid and occupation that continue with devastating regularity. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Benai Brit, also by video.
And 90 seconds does not allow for even scratching the surface of the errors, misrepresentations, and omissions in this COI's output. The Commission has again confirmed the explicit bias of its chosen members. In practically unsurpassable polemic rather than honest consideration of actual fact, the COI's newest report accuses Israel and Israel alone of undermining another people's identity, survival, and ties to a land. It accuses Israel and Israel alone of the crime of extermination, and it accuses Israel and Israel alone of possible genocidal intent. I urge those reading the COI's output to compare the expressly genocidal exterminationist rhetoric of Iran's leadership with the foundational documents of the State of Israel. I urge them to weigh Israel's military capacity alongside the diverse democracy it uniquely has built. I urge them to contrast Israel's establishing of peace with every willing Arab neighbor and its sweeping overtures to the Palestinians from 1947 through 2008 with the ideology and actions of Iran, a regime that has sponsored terrorism globally, impoverished its people while mass-producing missiles, and spent decades on an illicit nuclear program mere weeks away from a potential bomb. If this COI were interested in the root causes of conflict, it would show some interest in the open intentions of those who chant, "Death to America, death to Israel." Thank you.
Distinguished delegates, once again, I would like to request all participants to deal with the issues we are dealing with in this Council with the necessary dignity and respect, and I call upon all participants to ask questions or make comments in relation to the scope of the current dialogue. I give the floor to Human Rights Watch.
Thank you. The COI's vital new report documenting Israeli forces' systematic destruction of Gaza's educational, religious and cultural sites and war crimes and extermination underscores the long overdue need for concrete actions to stop the Israeli government's atrocities and hold perpetrators to account. The Commission and many others have highlighted the harrowing situation in Gaza and called for an end to the unlawful killing, starvation and destruction. Instead, Israeli authorities have continued these crimes and in many respects have escalated them. The ICJ has issued 3 rounds of provisional measures ordering Israel to prevent genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. States parties to the Genocide Convention risk legal liability for failing to act to prevent genocide. More countries with leverage are taking concrete steps, such as review of bilateral agreements and sanctioning of some Israeli officials. Those steps have already had impact, but much more is needed. States should immediately impose an arms embargo on Israel. 2, adopt targeted sanctions against Israeli officials responsible for ongoing serious abuses. 3, review with a view to suspending bilateral agreements with Israel. 4, commit to enforce all International Criminal Court arrest warrants. 5, ban all trade and business with Israel's illegal settlements. And 6, tackle root causes, including recognising Israel's crimes against humanity of apartheid and persecution. Words are not enough. Without clear action from all states, Israeli authorities show no signs of ceasing their campaign to exterminate and expel Palestinians. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to International Association of Jewish Lawyers and Jurists by video.
Respetada Asociación Internacional de Abogados y Jurados Judíos, Congreso Judío Mundial y Unión Europea de Estudiantes Judíos. Mi nombre es Rebecca Buchbut, esposa del Cana Buchbut de 36 años, quien fue secuestrado el pasado 7 de octubre del 2023 a manos del grupo terrorista Hamas. El Cana es padre de un niño de 5 años. El Cana más 3 padres que se encuentran en cautiverio, sus nombres son Omri Megan, padre de 2 niñas de 2 y 4 años. David Cuño, padre de 2 niñas de 5 años. Maxim Hakin, padre de una niña de aproximadamente 7 años. La vida y la dignidad no pueden ser rehenes de ningún conflicto. Han pasado 618 días de silencio, de miedo, de dolor. Sabemos por testimonios de rehenes que han sido liberados las condiciones tan inhumanas en las que viven los rehenes. Hambre, cadenas, aislamiento. Les pido que utilicen su potestad para que mi esposo del Cana, los padres que se encuentran con vida anteriormente mencionados y el resto de los secuestrados, que son en total 53, puedan regresar, ser liberados y regresar a casa lo más pronto posible.
Thank you. I give the floor to international lawyers for a joint statement.
Thank you. International Lawyers Org thanks the Commission for its report and reminds the Council that the already damaged credibility of this body is now hanging by a thread. The ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people, rooted long before the United Nations or this Council existed, remains the most serious, unresolved human rights situation on your agenda. The scale and duration of Israel's atrocities are without precedent in modern international law. We cannot ignore the deliberate, systematic destruction of a people, their homes, institutions, culture, and lives, carried out with impunity over generations. The Commission's findings confirm what the world is witnessing: starvation as a weapon, the bombing of hospitals and schools, and mass displacement. Every element of the crime of genocide is present. These acts have been committed with the intention to destroy the Palestinian people, at least in part, if not completely. Every state party to the Genocide Convention is obligated not only to prevent and punish genocide, but to take all lawful measures to stop it. All perpetrators must be prosecuted and full justice delivered to the victims, including their right to self-determination and reparations. Genocide is not only a crime, it is a call to action. We call upon the Commission to recognize that genocide is being committed by Israel against the Palestinian people. We urge this Council to unambiguously call upon all states to fulfill their obligations under the Genocide Convention. History will judge the silence of this body as complicity unless it acts immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Kiam Rehabilitation Center.
السيد الرئيس، السادة أعضاء المجلس، جئتكم اليوم محملا برسالة قافلة العدالة التي انطلقت يوم 11 جوان من أمام محكمة العدل الدولية، وجابت عواصم أوروبية عدة تعد مراكز صناعة للقرار، بهدف تسليط الضوء على الانتهاكات اللا إنسانية التي يتعرض لها الأسرى الفلسطينيون في سجون الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. إن قافلة العدالة حظيت بدعم أكثر من 150 مؤسسة حقوقية ودولية تمثل حراكا مدنيا واسعا يجسد تلاحما بين المدافعين عن الحق الفلسطيني في الميدان الأوروبي مع منظمات المجتمع المدني من أجل وضع حد للمجازر الصامتة التي ترتكب بحق آلاف الأسرى الفلسطينيين، ومن أجل ضمان مساءلة مرتكبي الانتهاكات وإنصاف الضحايا. لقد خاطبنا هذا المجلس مرارا مطالبين بتفعيل أدوات المحاسبة الدولية تجاه سلطات الاحتلال التي باتت انتهاكاتها تشكل عبئا أخلاقيا وقانونيا على النظام الدولي برمته. وعليه فإن مركز الخيام لتأهيل ضحايا التعذيب والجمعية الإنسانية الدولية للتنمية بلا حدود مع كل المؤسسات والجمعيات المساندة لقافلة العدالة يوصوا بما يلي: تشكيل آلية دولية خاصة لرصد وتوثيق أوضاع الأسرى الفلسطينيين، دعوة المقررين الخاصين المعنيين بالتعذيب وبالاعتقال التعسفي إلى زيارة السجون الإسرائيلية، المطالبة الدول الأعضاء بعدم توفير الحماية السياسية والقانونية لمرتكبي هذه الجرائم. السادة أعضاء المجلس، إن لم تستطيعوا إنفاذ العدالة فالأولى لكم أن تصنعوا لكم سفينة وتذهبون
UN report stands out for overt anti-Semitism. To quote it, Jews are extremists. Why? Because Jews pray where Muslims say they can't. Nazi exterminators also thought practicing Judaism was offensive. The report says it includes incidents that demonstrate wrongful patterns. You missed this pattern. Before this council, Sadati belittled Jewish victims of Jew hatred by claiming anti-Semitism complaints are thrown around like rice at a wedding. Pillay wrote this council's president defending Kotari's claim that the Jewish lobby and its money controls social media. Pillay told the UN press corps anti-Semitism worries are always raised as a diversion. Your 2024 report tried to silence the voices of Jewish victims by redefining anti-Semitism so as to exclude you. Today's anti-Semitic trope, Jews are profiteers, not cultural preservationists. This report excludes anti-Semitic attacks on religious sites, Arabs trashing Jewish sites for a century, Palestinian massacres, targeting synagogues, Jewish schools, Passover Seders, the Yom Kippur War, and October 7th itself on a biblical holiday. The truth is, only Israeli Jews have protected religious freedom and holy site access for Christians, Muslims, and Jews, while Palestinian leader Abbas bans Jewish, quote, filthy feet. But that's not in your report, where the truth goes to die.
Delegates, I want to remind everybody again that you all have the right to express your views about the report or activities of the mandate holders, but this must remain within the accepted framework, ensuring that a sense of respect permeates our discussions. In particular, no personal attacks against the mandate holders must be made. Thank you very much. I give the floor to the Norwegian Refugee Council.
Members of the Commission, the Norwegian Refugee Council recalls that under international humanitarian law, both the right to request and provide humanitarian assistance are protected legal entitlements, not discretionary political gestures. As the occupying power in the Palestinian territory, Israel is obligated to accept and facilitate relief efforts when the local population is left without essential means of survival. This obligation is not contingent on political approval or security pretexts. Equally vital is the right of the Palestinian people to initiate relief schemes. The State of Palestine holds the sovereign prerogative to assess needs, request international aid, and determine which actors are eligible to assist. Humanitarian organizations also hold the right to offer aid, impartially and in line with the needs of the affected population. This right must be protected from interference, bureaucratic obstruction, or politicized regulation. When an occupying power gives its consent, as it must, all parties, including third states, must facilitate the rapid and unimpeded passage of relief. Israel obstructs humanitarian relief and protection efforts in Gaza and the West Bank in order to further the wanton goals of forced displacement and territorial acquisition. NRC urges this Council to affirm that denying or obstructing the request or provision of humanitarian aid in the OPT is not just morally indefensible, it is legally prescribed. It is a grave breach of international law, a constituent of atrocity crimes.
Thank you. I give the floor to Al Messan Center for Human Rights for a joint statement.
Mr. President, we commend the Commission of Inquiry for its rigorous work and continuous reporting. In its March report, the Commission detailed Israel's systematic use of sexual, reproductive and other forms of gender-based violence against Palestinians and concluded that such acts are genocidal and used to dominate, oppress and destroy the Palestinian people. In its latest report, it documents widespread and systematic attacks on educational institutions, religious sites and cultural heritage in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory, including Gaza. These are not random or collateral. They are part of a deliberate effort